And away we go. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you happen to be in the world today. Welcome, one and all, to Coffee Talk. That's right, it is time for Coffee Talk or Coffee Talk Live, where we will be having a discussion about what is going on in the news today, taking a look at some snippets from the news, as it were, and having a little bit of dialogue with some of the people that are joining us in the live portion. And of course, if you would like to join the live portion, if you're catching this in a podcasting stream after the fact, you can find me Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. most of the time. Today we're early, but 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube, on Coffee Talk, and on Prepper University, as well as X, formerly known as Twitter. You can find me at Coffee Talk Chat if you wouldn't mind joining me there. And fistfulofradio.com, podcasting out of Atlanta Monday through Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and Friday at noon. Working a little earlier today because my wife and I have something to do this afternoon. So, yeah, 11 o'clock broadcast / podcast, as it were, this Memorial Day weekend. Well, today is actually Memorial Day, as is demonstrated there by Helter. Of course, I do read through as many of the comments as I reasonably can for the benefit of those who are listening and not able to see. Helter says, Happy Memorial Day. I see Dragon is here, as well as Boogers and Sven. And he says, remember, very few people do. However you can, it's important. The Memorial Day is important, but they tell you, oh, have a good Memorial Day, enjoy Memorial Day. And it's like, well, the function of Memorial Day actually is supposed to be remember those who you may have lost in wartime, to remember fallen soldiers, sons and daughters, fathers and mothers, as it were. It's not about barbecues. And Monkey is here today. Glad you could make it. Thanks for joining us today. Oh, and before I start digging into the news, to add insult to injury, I go on and on about ScrewTube and how they mess with my channels all the time. And every day there's something's been demonetized. Something got an advertiser strike. They did something to me, right? And one of the things that I've been struggling with for months is really almost the last couple of years, especially on Prepper University. Many of you are quite aware of this, that they oppress notifications. So I'll put a video up again. What is it? Prepper University, 66,400 subscribers. I'll put a video out in a month. I'm getting 500 views. Well, last week, Friday, I put up a video and it got a warning before it was even processed. So no one had seen it. They demonetized it from the platform. It cannot get ad revenue. It got 10,000 views in 2 days. Bastards. That's how they do you. It just kind of pissed me off. Really pissed me off. They approve a video, it gets 500 views. They tell me there's no way it'll ever get monetized. 10,000 views in 2 days. Insane. And Sven says the truth is hated. Apparently it is. Oh, joined today by Daniel. You see Daniel lounging in the chair behind me, and I've got, who is that? Granny Smith, actually, laying on the floor. But yeah, we may as well go ahead and jump into the news and open up the first article. And I'm sure all of you have seen this by now, and there's been so many conflicting reports on it, but we'll do our best. Hopefully this will open without too much of a headache, because Reese is being very sluggish here. Reese team is being sluggish. And there we go. New York Post article. Thousands of Trump fanatics, huh? Okay. Swarm the Bronx Park for his first New York rally since 2016. Quote, he's a real Nelson Mandela. Somebody must have said that. Thousands of hardcore Trump fanatics flooded the South Bronx Thursday, and that's really kind of demeaning to refer to them as fanatics instead of fans or supporters. They're calling them fanatics in the article. For the ex-president's campaign rally, including one diehard who likened the Republican to one of the most famous civil rights activists. Quote, he represents us, the blacks in this city and the world. He's a real Nelson Mandela. Paget Jones, 45 of Harlem, told the Post outside of the Crotona Park event. The Big Apple teacher, wearing a red MAGA hat, likened Trump's fight against his 4 federal indictments to the 27 years Mandela spent behind bars for going against his country's racist policies. No, that is a mistake. I hate seeing stuff like this. Mandela spent 27 years in prison because the way that he went against what he perceived to be racist policies is with terrorism. The man made bombs. He set people on fire. He murdered people. That's why he was in prison for 27 years. Mandela was a terrorist and a murderer. It says Trump is the first current or former president to be indicted on criminal charges. Quote, the fact that I like Trump and why a lot of black people are out here in the Bronx for Trump is because Trump is a fighter. Trump has that God factor. They prosecuted him. They lied about him, she said, adding that she voted for him twice. The minorities of New York, they're coming around. He definitely represents the vote. So here we go. It says the South Bronx rally marks the first Trump 77, Trump is 77, they mean, has hosted in his native state in 8 years and comes just 2 weeks after an event on the Jersey Shore 2 weeks ago that drew a crowd of nearly 100,000. It says here again, only 3,500 people were permitted to enter the Bronx gathering, but the crowd outside the check-in gates well exceeded the capacity cap in hopes of watching the rare event. While there was no immediate crowd estimate from the New York Police Department, the Trump campaign said at least 20,000 people were gathered outside. Now, I've heard numbers going from anywhere from 10 to 30,000 people. I have no way. And you're not going to get the truth at this point. I've seen a lot of articles denouncing this rally and showing like drone aerial shots that demonstrate there might be 5,000 or less people. But then those drone aerial shots themselves were denounced because those shots were taken early on before he even really came out. So that's how it started. But there's a lot of bouncing around in the media about this entire event, and I don't know how much of what you can trust. And Chocolate Thunder says YouTube does not like you. Apparently not. Monkey says they only know the mainstream answer to Nelson Mandela, a good guy and civil rights person. The real Mandela is the worst guy with terrorism. Yeah, and that's what I was alluding to. He was a terrorist. He murdered people. Him and his wife used to light people on fire. I forget what they called it, but it's a system of execution by which you're bound, and then a tire is fitted over your shoulders that has been filled with gasoline, and they light it on fire, and they basically melt your body. It's horrible, but him and his wife used to do that to people. That's why he was in prison. That's why Mandela was in prison, not because he was a freedom fighter. That's bullshit, you know. And look at the condition of South Africa ever since he became president. He ran the country into the ground. And Cuban Nurse Prepper says, good morning, everyone from Northwest Florida. How's the weather down there? It's pouring out here in Georgia. It is pouring. But yeah, I mean, I think 20,000 is probably a fair estimate. They say 20,000 people attended. Like I said, I've heard between 10 and 30, so 20 would be a fair guess. The aerial shots that the mainstream media like CNN are trying to show are aerial shots taken from drones from before the event got jumped off, and they're using those images to mislead people into thinking that like nobody was there. It's really ridiculous. The reason why he's getting, and also a lot of those people are coming out for him is because they feel slighted in how things are being handled in the country. They're seeing prices going up. They're seeing that they're being ignored. by their leadership, by their lawmakers. They see illegal aliens being given precedence over them, and they're the ones that are paying taxes. I'm a taxpayer. All you do is basically rake me over the coals, and now you want to take my money and give it away to these people. You want to lay off firemen. You want to lay off sanitation workers and sewage workers. You want to take my tax money and give benefits to someone who snuck into the country and we don't even know who they are or why they're here. It's insulting, and you wonder why. They want to support Trump. I've pointed it out before. You may not like Trump. That's fine. That's fine. A lot of people don't. But if he's going to do the job, I can deal with his arrogance. Chocolate says weather in Philadelphia is nice right now. And Sven says necklacing is what that was called. I couldn't remember. I could not remember. But this was top of the news. And like I said, CNN and people like that, and The View and everybody are losing their minds. Oh my God, why are so many people from New York coming out? Why would people from New York want to support Trump? Because they're tired of feeling like second-class citizens in their own city where they probably lived their entire lives. Again, paying all those taxes, and watching it go out to other people. Like we were reading the article on Friday from Maine, the government of Maine trying to get churches to take illegal immigrants in and wanting them to repurpose daycares and soup kitchens and pantries and stuff and turn them into temporary shelters for migrants. Whereas if churches in most states, if you take in homeless people, you get fined by the city and they'll take the church to court for helping homeless people. So it's an insult. It's an insult. Plus, during that article, or in that article, it was revealed that in Maine, or at least in the area being governed by the person who was describing the situation, said that 90 to 95% of the welfare benefits being paid out, again, this is Maine, the state Maine, 90 to 95% of the welfare payments going out are going to illegal immigrants. But doesn't seem to have a problem with that. Wants the churches to help. Monkey says it was light raining now. It's just cloudy here in Cleveland. And Puck says, long live Rhodesia. Anarchy's here from rural Minnesota. Happy Memorial Day. Sven says it is supported among leftists in that country. And Monkey says the real overall feeling comes from who they'll vote for in November, assuming it's even fair. Who knows? And there's Sean checking in from Northern Illinois. Glad you could make it today. As people are coming in. Puck, of course, reminds us. He says, remember the fallen, not the barbecues. Yeah, that's what something I alluded to when I first started. You're supposed to be remembering those who you lost in war, soldiers, and so on. Not because that's all they say. Oh, happy Memorial Day. Is it? If I'm sitting there remembering dead mothers, fathers, sons, and daughters, it's not very happy, is it? And Sven says, who to claim authority over all health in the world by this June, we shall see. Or World Health Organization. Ugh. Yeah, we will see. We will see. And then Cuban nurse prepper there says, hot 82, all Cuban Americans like, we are so mad about the illegals. They're milking the system. I work in a clinic. I'm seeing it all the time. Yeah, I bet you are. And it's disheartening. It's disheartening to see that. And it shouldn't be happening. And it's happening by design. It was done deliberately so that a problem could be created so that they could pretend to fix it. But it's gotten so big, you have to imagine, hey, can they actually fix it at all? Is that going to happen now? You know, only time will tell. Only time will tell. Also big in the news here. And again, we'll see how, better transition there from Restream. Newsweek article. This just happened. Have you seen this in the news? Tel Aviv comes under fire as Hamas rockets pierce Israel's Iron Dome. This just happened. Just happened. They're under fire. There are rockets coming in to Israel again. Guess where from? Guess where from? Someplace that Joe Biden doesn't want them to go. Hamas fired rockets at Tel Aviv, at the Tel Aviv arena in Israel for the first time in nearly 4 months on Sunday, according to reports. There were no immediate reports of casualties or damage in what was apparently the first long-range rocket attack from Gaza since January, according to the Associated Press. The Israeli military said 8 projectiles crossed into the territory after being launched from the southern Gaza city of, you guessed it, Rafah, where Israeli forces have launched an incursion earlier this month, an incursion that they were ordered not to do. The United Nations, the European Union, and the United States told them not to go into Rafah, even though Rafah is the last holdout. So if you want them to wrap up the war, that needs to happen. Joe Biden went so far as to say that if they do go into Rafah, that he would no longer support Israel, which he still is. He just said that because he's playing both sides, giving money to Iran and to Israel at the same time, being friends to both enemies, as it were. And then the reasoning behind why the current executive branch of the United States did not want Israel to go in, and we read the article on this last week, is because the logistics of them evacuating the population before an incursion was impossible. It couldn't happen. But guess what? Israel evacuated the population in like 2 weeks. They got almost 1 million of the 1.2 or 1.3 million estimated people completely out of Rafah before they started. And I'll remind you, Israel is the only country that does that sort of thing. No one else does that. No one else announces in advance we're going to invade or we're going to attack. Nobody does that. Israel does it because they're under constant scrutiny from people that are trying to tell them how to govern, trying to get involved in their business. Again, the United States, the United Nations, and the European Union. And Monkey says, when did that happen to where people associate Memorial Day with barbecues? At which point, marketing departments wanted to see if they could find a way to profit off of the holiday, since it's an official day off. It's a recognized holiday. You know, like, for instance, the post office probably isn't delivering mail today. So if people are home with nothing to do, well, let's give them something to do. We'll associate Memorial Day with barbecues. It's just a marketing ploy. Puck says, mass deportations, I have a pickup truck. It can be done. It can be done. That's getting back to the previous article. But we all know that if they really want to, they can find everybody and throw them out. It's not impossible. It's not impossible for that to be done. Sven says, legislation to give Israeli military American benefits paid for by us. Well, hell, if we're paying for pensions in Ukraine, we may as well, right? Puck says, sounds like a CNN story. Clown News Network. Again here, it says, Israeli military said a number of other projectiles were intercepted by its Iron Dome system, which specializes in shooting down short-range rockets. So they missed 8. 8 managed to get in, but no major damage was done, apparently. But that did happen. They did, and again, they managed to evacuate the Rafah population, and they're working on it. And they found tunnels under Rafah too, big ones. You could drive a semi-truck through. It's crazy. It's like, you think these people, you would want to build your community. Let's build a hospital. Let's build a school. Let's build a wall. Let's build a water filtration system or an irrigation system. No, we're going to build tunnels. We're going to dig tunnels. They need to flood them. Was it Egypt? When Egypt, I know that Israel was under fire for flooding some of the tunnels that they had discovered with seawater. But I think it was Egypt that when they discovered tunnels like a decade ago, flooded them with raw sewage. And they didn't even clear them first. They just drowned people in raw sewage. And you never saw that in the media, did you? Look it up. I'm not kidding. Sven says, oh, he's talking to Puck. I don't want to interfere with other people's conversations there. But speaking of deportations, deportations, you'll get a kick out of this one. This is going to be an Al Jazeera article. Al Jazeera article. And we're going to jump to Greece, because Greece has had about enough too. And this will go to show you how far-reaching the money is. Something we've talked about in in terms of how affected universities and colleges in the Western world, not just the United States, have been manipulated by the donations that have been coming into them for the last several years, almost 10 years, from Qatar, from Saudi Arabia, from China, and from places like that, manipulating these colleges and universities. And then that's where that's left us where we are now with the protests that are going on in colleges and universities, not just in the United States, but across the world, including Greece, which is the point of this article. Al Jazeera, again, audacious and outrageous. Gaza protesters slam Greek deportation. It's because Greece is deporting some of the worst agitators. 9 people from the United Kingdom and the European Union member states are facing deportation from Greece days after they took part in a protest in solidarity with Palestine at Greek universities. A total of 28 people arrested by Greek police during the protest and encampment at the Athens Law School on May 14th on charges including disturbing the peace, damaging property, trespassing, as well as violations of laws on weapons and flares, all of which they deny. Of course they do. Never admit anything. Especially if you're at a law school, you realize you never admit a damn thing. Of those arrested, the 9 from the UK and European Union nationals have been designated as unwanted aliens and deemed a threat to public order and national security, facing deportation in an unusual move by authorities. The group of lawyers representing the 9 non-Greek protesters say they will challenge the decision to deport them at their trial in Athens set for Tuesday. In a statement, they asked whether the right of free movement of European citizens only applies to tourists and investors and is suspended in the case of political action, especially if it concerns Palestine. According to them, the arrested protesters are currently being held in the Amygdalza, if I said that correctly, detention center just outside Athens in deplorable conditions and with no interpreters. A foreign prison being uncomfortable sucks, doesn't it? And this is the same argument right here. Without even getting further into this, this is the same problem that I have with the Stop Cop City protesters in Atlanta. All the people that they arrest at those events, they're not even from Georgia. They're not from Atlanta. They're not from Georgia. They're from freaking nowhere. They're from, well, nowhere around here. They're from everywhere else. They're from all over the rest of the country. They're from Canada. They're from France. A bunch of the agitators they arrested are from France. What the hell are you doing here protesting a local issue, a local Atlanta city issue? Why are you here stirring up shit? I have no problem with them taking these guys and saying, you're not even from Greece. Why are you in our Greek universities protesting and stirring up mess? Get the hell out. Why is there even a trial? Why is there even a trial? Throw them the hell out. Puck says there's no moral equivalency between the acts of Hamas terrorist groups and the Israeli response to them. From the previous article. And Lantern of Liberty said, outside agitators, old story. No kidding. And you see more and more of that all the time nowadays, is these outside agitators, paid agitators, as has been disclosed not just with the money coming into the colleges and universities in the Western world from countries that hate the Western world and what it represents, but also from people like Soros. The Soros Foundation funded a lot of the activist leaders that are stirring up mess at universities in the United States. And why is this not considered an act of terrorism? Why is this not considered a threat to our so-called democracy? I'm tired of hearing that. Oh, it's a threat to our democracy. Oh my God. Trump paid hush money to Stormy Daniels. He's a threat to our democracy. And again, what about the women that Bill Clinton paid hush money to? He paid a lot more in hush money than Donald Trump ever did. I can't remember her name. There was one in particular he paid $800,000 to in a non-disclosure agreement. Why isn't Bill Clinton on trial? I'm waiting for it. Anytime now. Anytime now. DeFonte, if I'm reading that correctly, it says, every day I get more upset that my government has become my enemy, attacking everything I do in my life and making you pay for it. That's the insult to injury there. Not only are they interfering with everything that you do and inviting threats and danger to our country and to our people, but they're using your tax money to do it. And you have no control over how it's spent. And then, of course, they say, oh, well, you've got to make your vote count. For what? For what? I've said it 100 times. They tell you that the whole purpose behind voting is to get rid of the bad apples. If that were true, there wouldn't be any, because they'd all be afraid of losing their jobs. And they are not afraid, are they? Are they, little girl? Come here. Come here, little girl. Little girl, everybody. One of the strays that we've taken in and we're taking care of. There she is. Came in to visit me real quick. Cat break. She's actually extremely friendly, as you can see here, for an abandoned stray. She just needed somebody to take care of her. Isn't that right? Isn't that right? Good girl. Here you go. There you go. Let me see. I'll catch up a couple more comments. Lantern of Liberty reminds us we're a constitutional republic. Democracy is now a code word for modern feudalism. And Puck says, actually, the proposal for VA benefits is for the Americans serving in the IDF. And Maxwell says, what do you think about about Biden being disqualified from the Ohio ballot? Oh, he'll get around it. He'll work his way around it. They'll fix that. I mean, they can it's just like when all of these different states tried to disqualify Trump, and then it got thrown out by the state's Supreme Courts that says, no, you can't really do that. It's just more political bullshit is what it is. And Unknown Nose says she's a cuddler. Most of them are, once they warm up, especially if they're a rescue cat and if it clicks and they realize, hey, you saved my life. You're my friend now. That's right, Puck. Kitties. Daniel is still sitting behind me. The other cats have left the room now. But I have, again, back to Greece, I have no problem with them throwing out agitators. They should. They should. Why are you in our country stirring up mess? Why are they even going to trial? Why is there a hearing? How do they have lawyers? Who's paying for their attorneys? That's what I would want to know. Who is paying for attorneys to represent them in Greek court? And they're not even from Greece. Who's paying for that? Are they paying for it? You got that kind of money and leisure time that you can travel around Europe and show up at universities and break things and cause problems? Because destruction of property is one of the claims. Destruction of property. Granny Smith. Come here, Granny. I guess it's going to be cats on parade here. Granny Smith, everybody. There she is. Hi, darling. Oh, I went too fast and you got spooked, huh? It's all right. It's all right. Granny Smith, everybody. She likes my beard. She like digs her nails into my beard all the time. Silly girl. All right, I've got work to do. You go play or something. As I catch up a couple of the comments. I know cat distractions. Eric Peter says how to get off the subject too much, but hate to, I guess you mean. But do you think cats and dogs have the mind capacity to know when you save them from the street or a shelter? I was wondering that. I think some do. They realize, like, who is it? Hobo. Some of you are aware of the cat Hobo. He's the orange tabby that I have. A Hobo's one of the animals that we took care of, or we took in, that was literally on death's door. He's one of the ones that the vet told me that I'd be better off just putting him down. Because, I mean, he has no teeth. The poor cat has no teeth. He was infested with fleas. He had ear mites that were so bad that his ears were infected. There was white pus coming out of his ears. You could smell it on him. He was emaciated completely. His ribs were showing. He had a bad virus, feline AIDS, and which is not the same as human AIDS, and intestinal worms. And they were like, "No, he's done for." But I cleaned him up anyway, and he lives on our back porch, and he's gained a ton of weight. He looks great. And every time he sees me, he flips out. When we first encountered him, he's terrified of me. I think he knows that we helped him, and he's extremely affectionate now. And DeFonte says he's mad he didn't vote in the recent local elections, and the only person he'll vote for now is Trump. Then I'll move to my home in Colombia. And Maxwell says you're probably right that he'll find a way around it, but I have a feeling this will be a good election year, but I also have a feeling that they'll replace Biden at the convention. Maybe. And Charmaine says getting up for the one world order. And Sven says we make illegals that hate us, cops and military. Yeah, it looks that way. I'll catch up a few more comments and move on here. Defani says, I don't feel America is my country anymore. I used to be super patriotic, not anymore. Well, you can love your country and not what the government is doing. You know what I mean? You can still love your country or care about your country without and be disappointed in your lawmakers. Puck says, assuming Trump somehow overcomes the election, voter fraud, and is elected, it will not be a smooth transition. No, they'll make it very, very hard. An unknown says, if I moved to another country, I'd study the local language and customs daily, only discuss my homeland when prompted, and be polite. And that's required. If you move anywhere else, they expect you to adapt, just not in the Western world. And DeFonte says, we have a cat as mayor in the town of Talkeetna, Alaska, or Talkeetna, Alaska, if I'm reading that correctly. And Lantern of Liberty thinks that the legal fees in Greece are probably being paid Soros. Paid by Soros. It wouldn't surprise me. Wow, we're way behind now. That's okay, though. I don't mind the conversation. And Cuban Nurse Prepper said, how about what happened with the general from the Special Forces in his home and make you think how many are here? And one more, Eric Peters says, absolutely right. Loving your country is loving the idea and the ideals of the country, but sometimes are challenged, which is why you're supposed to have First Amendment rights so that you can voice those opinions, and Second Amendment rights so that you can defend your right to voice those opinions, which is why they want to take the Second away so that they can permanently gag the First. Did that transition? Here it comes, I think. There we go. Washington Post article. As we shift to the concept of religion. This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous, and it's obvious pandering, and it's an obvious attempt by the Catholic Church to try and get younger people interested in Catholicism. Legends is here. Glad you could make it today. Early day today because my wife and I have something to do this afternoon. Washington Post article, Pope clears the way for the first millennial saint dubbed God's influencer. And there's his picture. Saint, I don't know who the hell that is. I'm going to just be honest. I don't know who this person is. I've never heard of him. But there we go. An early aughts blog, probably not where you'd expect to find the next Mother Teresa, but that is where Carlo Acutis, soon to become the first millennial saint in the Catholic Church, made a name for himself documenting miracles. The Holy See said Thursday that Pope Francis has recognized a second miracle linked to Acutis, paving the way for his canonization, the final step in a process that can sometimes take decades. It will place the online evangelizer, who died in 2006 of leukemia at the age of 15, among thousands of saints recognized by the Church. So they really sped this process through, because canonizing, usually, like they said, it takes decades. It could take 30, 40, 50 years to canonize somebody, but they got this kid wrapped up quick. And he documented miracles. He didn't perform any, as far as I understand it. Article goes on to say the Catholic Church has struggled to pull in young people as it wrestles with criticism of its outdated practices, views of gender equality, and sexual abuse scandals that have alienated its members. Yeah, I would hope so. Pope Francis has made efforts to increase inclusivity in the deeply hierarchical institutions, such as by allowing blessings for same-sex couples and calling on theologians to demasculinize the church, often drawing ire from conservatives. No, conservatives, it draws ire from your entire congregation, because the changes go against the tenets of Catholicism, and they also go against the tenets of the Bible itself. It works against the Bible, but that's what the Catholic Church does anyways, by declaring a vicar of Christ in the first place, because that's what the Pope is. He represents or proposes himself to be, and is supported by the hierarchy of the church authority within Catholicism, to be a steward on behalf of Yeshua, or Jesus as it were, to be the steward of Jesus's kingdom until as such time that Jesus decides to come back, which means that whatever he says, so let it be written on earth, so let it be written in heaven. His word is the law of God, because they say so. So that the church has made all kinds of changes throughout the centuries that are not biblical. The recognition of several different holidays that were pagan holidays, that they transmogrified into Catholic holidays, the worshiping of Mary and the worshiping of saints, even though they'll tell you that's not what they're doing, that they are the way that they, a Catholic apologetics would tell you, or apologist, it is apologetics, but the Catholic apologist will tell you that what they're doing is beseeching that person to pray to God on their behalf. Like if you were to ask a church member, hey, pray for me, right? But if you are beseeching someone who is deceased, then you are calling on a spirit, which violates the instructions of the Bible. You're not supposed to talk to spirits. It's considered a sin. And so on. The use of Sunday as the Sabbath day, when according to the Bible it's sundown Friday to sundown Saturday. They changed it because a pope said so, and so on. And now they're shoehorning this kid into being a saint, shaving decades off of the canonization process, and he didn't even perform a miracle, so that they can try to get younger people interested in the church. It's really kind of pathetic when you look at it that way. Let me catch up a couple more comments here. DeFonte says their country is unrecognizable. Everybody seems to have to be in their business. What they consume, when I consume what I think, what I believe has to be approved by various opposing groups. You keep resisting that. Puck says that idiot Pope made the Catholic Church illegitimate. Unknown says it draws from the devout. It draws ire from the devout. Excuse me. Sven says the Pope is a Jesuit. He should not even be Pope. Unknown says no vicars for me. Helter says it takes a lot to be sainted. It's not just handed out to anyone. Apparently it is, Helter. Apparently it is. You must have missed something. If the Pope says that it is because he's Christ's vicar on earth, remember? Sven says the priest class was set up so all of the property went to the church. But this is, to me, it's just kind of ridiculous, and it's a reflection on what they're trying to do. They're, as far as putting butts in the seats, getting people sitting in the pews and making donations. Because if you're going to church, you're putting something in the pan. Unless you're the Little Rascals. Who remembers the Little Rascals in church? And they would pass the plate around and the priest would get it and it'd be full of like buttons and paper clips and bottle caps. Yeah, there you go. There you go. And Dragon says they never say what miracles the boy performed. No, he documented miracles on his blog page, or what he perceived to be miracles. Because if you really evaluate any so-called modern miracles, the majority of them can be easily debunked as frauds or hoaxes. DeFonte says most people don't like the Pope, even Catholics. And then Unknown Knows says soon you'll be able to buy sainthood like you can buy a ride into space or a capsule in a cryogenics lab. You would think so. I mean, well, you remember they used to sell cardinal ships. When the church needed money back in the day, they would sell cardinal ships. And you could buy your way into being a cardinal. They've done other stuff like that. They've done other stuff like that in the past. Selling tickets into purgatory and crazy things that they've done to keep the money flowing in. And people will pay it. People will pay it. People believe anything. Never mind the Catholicism. Look at the other crazy stuff that people believe all over the place. Crystal therapy and, and alien religions and stuff. And Wise Dove is here. Says, I was watching your latest video before coming to the live. Great info. Thank you, Wise Dove. Much appreciated. Glad you could make it today. And I am podcasting early. I usually do it at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, but my wife and I have something to do today, so I'm doing it a little bit early, as I'm getting ready to jump into another one of my favorite subjects. And Bob says indulgencies. Thank you. I couldn't think of the term, Bob. It's indulgencies that they were selling. And Lantern of Liberty said, so the kid was like some YouTubers, document something ordinary-ish and profit from it. Exactly. That's what he was doing. Document something ordinary that, panders to people's feelings, because that's what most of it is, and probably fake, like most of the stuff that you see, like all these videos that you see of somebody giving up their seat on the bus, or helping an old lady cross the street, or all these videos are fake. They're all fake, especially nowadays. All the stuff you see on TikTok and Instagram and things like that, they're all fake. They're all bullshit. I really get tired of it. Watch me talk to this homeless man. My favorite is the one with the guy who gives the guy who goes around asking people for some of their food in a restaurant, and they tell them to leave him alone. And then they give a pizza to a homeless man, and he asks the homeless guy for the pizza, and he gives him a slice to show that the homeless person is so much better or more honest. But it's staged. The guy's not even homeless, as it turns out. That it was a college film project. Cuban says that's why lots of people are decollating to non-denomination churches or non-denominational churches. So one of my favorite subjects is tearing down going green. And I've done videos on Coffee Talk talking about this in Dad. Hold on a second, everybody. Speaking of, why are you in here? Come here, Dad. Come here, Dad. Come here, Dad. Some of you know Dad. Oh, this is old Dad. This is an outdoor cat. He lives on our back porch. I don't know why he's in the house. Why are you in the house? This is another one of the big rescue cats. He's the one that we needed the GoFundMe for because he needed the surgery. A tumor was killing him. He had a tumor and he was just dying. And he's another one that the vet told us that you may as well just put him down. He's not going to make it. And I got the money, and they did the surgery anyway. And they kept him in there for a week, and they said he's not healing, he's not eating, he's just going to die. We'll put him down. And I said, no, give him to me. I'm going to take him home. And as soon as I got him home, he perked up, started eating. The wounds started to heal. And here he is now. Isn't that right, Dad? How are you, buddy? And he lives on our back porch also. He's primarily an outdoor cat. He's never been able to really get over marking tendencies. That's why he can't stay in the house. But answering Eric Peters' question, this is an example of it right here. An animal that you couldn't get near that was terrified. And then after he was healed, he became as friendly as this. You see, he's like a big baby now because I think he knows we saved him. I think he knows that we saved him. Well, the vet that we use is the one recommended to us from Halo House. And Halo House is the shelter that helps to get us vouchers for spaying and neutering and stuff like that. They don't pay for everything, but the spaying and neutering alone is very helpful in dealing with all these animals. And Halo House also helps us to get some of them adopted. And he's friendly enough to be adopted, but he marks. So that's why, that's all right, buddy. That's why he wouldn't be suitable for adoption because people aren't going to put up with that. But he's fine if he's outside. So he likes it there. He rarely leaves the back porch unless he has to go to the bathroom. Right, buddy? And you see how his one ear is bent? It's from scarring. He's got a lot of scars on him, and the tendon is permanently damaged. That's why it's bent like that. Hey, what a good boy you are, huh? You shouldn't be in the house, though. So my wife must have let him in through the back door by accident. I'm going to set you back down so I can get back to work here, okay? All right, buddy? You're seeing all kinds of felines today. Oh, no. But anyway, getting back to my subject here. I've been totally distracted. Yeah, he's an angel now. He's like I said, answering Eric Peters' question. I think he knows. I think he knows that we saved him, and he's very friendly with us now. The electric vehicles don't work. I've talked about this in detail on the Coffee Talk channel and videos that I did recently. The electric vehicles are a failure. The solar and wind power is a failure. There's almost, at this point, 2,000 solar and wind power power stations across the United States, providing less than 2% of our power usage, or roughly 2%. Meanwhile, coal, gas, and nuclear is providing like 90%, and then 7% comes from hydroelectric. But there's less coal, gas, and nuclear plants than there are solar and wind powered plants. But the solar and wind power plants are only providing like 2%. It's pathetic. It's absolutely pathetic. And Defani says there are less wind turbines now. And Fluke Man says, wait, what? You're live now? Yeah, I had to do it early today because we have something to do. But so whenever I see anything talking about the failure of these systems, I got to showcase it. And this is Savvy Dime. Electric trucks operating expenses are worse than diesel trucks. I knew this and I've talked about it at length, but I like seeing articles about it and I will read them. Article says, while electric passenger cars have been available for some time, the first all-electric Class 8 semi-truck didn't hit the roads until 2022. Electric semi-truck manufacturers as well as truck rental companies expected transportation companies to jump at the chance to change from diesel to battery powered. However, that is not proven to be true. The fact is that the electric semi trucks are simply far too expensive. And that was our point. And we talked about that in great detail with transit buses, with electric snow plows on the East Coast, and electric school buses, which most of them, the fleets are completely mothballed. They cost 3 to 5 times as much as their diesel counterparts, and the maintenance costs are insane. They're absolutely insane. You have a diesel vehicle that's costing you, like, with fuel and maintenance, $5,000 a year, but then you have an electric bus and it's going to cost you like $30,000 a year to maintenance. It doesn't make sense, and then doesn't work in the cold, and then doesn't drive even a quarter of the length of time it needs to. In 2022, Tesla released the Tesla Semi, a fully electric Class 8 powered by a giant rechargeable battery. Later that year, beloved semi-truck manufacturer Freightliner created its own electric Class 8, the Cascadia. However, over the past 2 years, hardly any of either vehicle has been sold. As of December 2023, only 100 Tesla semis were in circulation, and Freightliner has only sold 50 trucks in total. That's because people know they don't work and they're too damn expensive. Rakesh Anja, head of e-mobility at Daimler Truck North America, which manages Freightliner, said, quite frankly, demand has not been as strong as what we would like. That's because, like with everything else, we're being forced into it. They're forcing us to go electric. They're forcing us to go wind and solar. They're forcing us to close coal and natural gas plants for systems that do not work, that have not been proven. And as I pointed out 1,000 times, if the system works, if you've perfected it and it works, give it to us and I'll accept it. That's great. These systems have never been perfected and they're being forced on us. Back to the article. Because semi-trucks are so expensive, there is a large rental industry throughout the United States. One truck rental company, Ryder System, believed that with the release of electric semis, customers would be begging for them. Yeah, who lied to you? However, while Ryder manages 250,000 trucks for thousands of retailers and transportation companies, it has only rented 60 electric trucks in the last 2 years, and most of them were light-duty trucks, not semis. It says a Tesla Semi costs between 150 to 180,000, and Freightliner Cascadias start at 139,000. While a new standard diesel power semi can cost 200,000, most companies buy them used for less than 70. Therefore, the average diesel semi costs less than half of the electric model. Not surprising at all. And it's a shame how we're being railroaded into this. It's a shame how we're being railroaded into this, which ties in with this article that I'm going to pull up also, which is a CNET Roadshow article. Very directly connected with that last one. And I'll get that. Hopefully that'll pop up without a bad transition. As I'll catch up a couple more here. Defani says nobody anywhere has the ability to recharge any significant amount of vehicles, and it takes too long. You can't, if it takes an average of a minimum of 8 hours to charge the vehicle, and then you can only go a third to a quarter of the distance, and not at all if it's cold, you're not going anywhere. Who the hell wants that? Everybody who wants to talk about how great electric vehicles are, they need to go and do that in Chicago. If you recall, last year in Illinois, thousands of electric vehicles were stranded all over the state because they would not charge in the cold. They would not charge. Sven says it's because they're complete shit. No kidding. And DeFonte says the WEF wants to ban meat farms and consumption. Yeah, they do. They do. But again, here we go with a CNET article. It says 12 states banning the sale of gas-powered cars. And here's your example again. We're being forced to do this. California is gearing up to prohibit the sale of new gas-powered cars, and other states are playing follow the leader. A measure approved by the California Air Resources Board in August 2022 requires all new cars, SUVs, and pickup trucks sold in the state to generate zero tailpipe emissions by 2035. The policy won't take existing vehicles off the road, but automakers and car dealers will be restricted by selling electric vehicles or restricted to selling electric vehicles and certain plug-in hybrids. Our cars shouldn't make wildfires worse. That's bullshit, and that's a science mom's talking point. They're not making wildfires worse. It's like science moms and their, wildfires are burning hotter. You can't make wood burn hotter. Okay, it burns at its maximum combustion capacity, no matter what the outside temperature is or whatever. Fire doesn't burn hotter. It burns at the maximum level of whatever the combustion agent is. Back to the article, and create more days filled with smoky air. California Governor Gavin Newsom said cars shouldn't melt glaciers or raise sea levels, threatening our cherished beaches and coastlines. Oh my God, what a load of crap. The state's Advanced Clean Car 2 rule requires zero-emission vehicles to represent 35% of new cars and light trucks by 2026, and then 68% by 2030, and 100% by 2035. So make sure you're out of California by 2035, basically. When it comes to emissions, California is a bellwether. 11 other states that link the standards to California's have already announced plans to prohibit the sales of new ICE automobiles after 2035, and more could follow. So it says 17 states have historically followed California regulations, but so far only Delaware, Maine, Maryland, Massachusetts, New Jersey, New York, Oregon, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, Vermont, and Washington have announced that they'll enforce the Advanced Clean Cars 2 rule and prohibit the sale of new gasoline-powered vehicles. Yeah, and you notice something about those states. They are all very heavily liberalized states. And banning the sale of those vehicles does not ban owning or purchasing them. Wise says, get your gas or diesel vehicle now before these stupid mandates come into effect. They won't take them away if you already have them. Correct. At least not right away. And Sven says the science is against electric cars. Yeah, if you actually research it, like I've done on some of the videos on the Coffee Talk channel, that it's an inefficient system. The electric cars, they don't work. Electric cars do not work. Wind power plants are inefficient. Solar power plants are inefficient. They don't work. I did lengthy videos on it using the government's own websites to demonstrate how inefficient they are. They don't work. And plastic recycling doesn't work either, because you can't recycle plastic, apparently, and they've been lying to us for 50 damn years. Another video I did on Coffee Talk that practically no one saw because YouTube suppressed all 3 of those recent videos. All 3 of them. Unknown No says the forest fires burn hotter because they refuse to maintain the deadwood. And DeFonte says it's impossible to put out an electric car fire. They like the white phosphorus grenades. Yeah, they're very dangerous, very toxic. And unless you have a fully equipped halon system with your local fire department. They're not going to be able to maintain it. All they can do is try to keep it from spreading. But with that, we are at the top of the hour. God, you're all in here. We are at the top of the hour, so I'm going to go ahead and start signing off. Thanks for joining us in this early edition today. We'll be back to the 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tomorrow. Again, you are listening to and or watching Coffee Talk, and you can find Coffee Talk and Prepper University on YouTube. Please do subscribe to both channels, and that's at Coffee Talk Live and at Prepper University. You can also find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, and that is at Coffee Talk Chat, where I can put up posts sometimes that I can't dare do here, as well as fistfulofradio.com, podcasting out of Atlanta Monday through Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and Friday at noon. So with that, I will go ahead and sign off. Thank you, everybody who was able to join us here today. And as always, we hope you got something out of the conversation. I will catch you again.